This whole record making process was completely different. First of all, in the past, you know, I'm usually walking into a room full of strangers and it's like, hi, I'm Stacie Orrico, and they're like, okay, so tell us about your life and let's write about it. And you're like awkwardly trying to be really honest, but you know, it's like all these grown men who you're trying to tell your stories about your boyfriend to, and it's really awkward. So this time, I just, you know, I was like, I'm not gonna sit down and write with anybody who I don't feel like I have some sort of like bond with, or somebody who I feel like I can be totally honest and you know, vulnerable with. Otherwise, I'm not going to get as honest of a record as I want. So I worked with a couple producers who I'd worked with in the past, but a lot of them were new producers. And I just called them up myself and said, hey, this is Stacie. The label doesn't know, but I'm starting to make another record, and so I don't really want you to say anything. But you know, if I would love to work with you if you know, have a little bit of time. And then I said, you know, and since we don't really know each other, I'd love to get a chance to just hang out. So before we even go in the studio, you know, let's just get to know each other. So we would spend sometimes a week or 2 weeks, and we would just hang out with each other's friends. We would get to know each other's families. We'd go to the movies. We'd go bowling. We would cook big meals together, and like, you know, I would cook Italian food and they would cook soul food, and you know, we would have these like family type gatherings. And I really truly feel like I made the Beautiful Awakening record with my family. Like it's the most honest piece of work I've been able to make, because the songs weren't coming out of like, okay, so do you have any, you know, topics that you've been thinking of? It was like we would sit and have these big long conversations around the dinner table, where sometimes some of us would be crying or, you know, sharing like really deep things, and then we would go and write the songs from there. So it was really powerful. I woke up holding my pillow. Didn't know it was a dream. I had nothing when I entered into the studio. I had no lyrics, but I had literally probably 6 or 7 journals full of things that I had, you know, been writing about and experiencing and kind of soaking in from the past and everything in those couple years that I was taking a break. So I did have that, and then I didn't want to give myself any boundaries. I didn't want to have any preconceived like, okay, this is the concept for this album or whatever. You know, I think that that's great to have that type of vision, but for me, it was, I just wanted to make music for the sheer joy of it, and it had been such a long time since I'd been able to make music just because I love music and not because I needed to like, you know, make the perfect record for this perfect demographic that'll fit this radio format and make this A&R team happy. And you know, it was like I hadn't made music without that pressure, and so I was like, I'm just gonna go in and however it comes out, like, and I had no idea. I mean, I knew that it would probably be kind of a soulful R&B record just because that's how I've always written, and that's the music that I grew up singing. From the time I was really young, all my influences are in that genre of music. But I was like, I don't know, maybe I have like pent-up anger and it's gonna come out like a rock record, or maybe I'm gonna sit down with some like country dude and be inspired by, you know, his steel guitar, and I'm gonna write country music. I have no idea, and I just kind of gave myself total freedom, and then the album just kind of evolved as we went. I need you in my life. Oh, boy, I dream you all the time. It's funny because in some ways I feel like I'm a 45-year-old woman, like in a 20-year-old's body from just some of the life experience and you know, my whole like career business world. But then there's parts of me where, you know, when I finally was able to slow down and take a break, I remember sitting and telling my mom, I was like, okay, even though there's parts of me that I know people would consider to be really mature, I think there's some parts of me that are like completely underdeveloped because of my weird, crazy life. And so, you know, I think there's parts of me that are 45 and parts of me that are still, you know, 10. You know, it's really been interesting for me to go back and see video footage or photos or whatever from the last time, especially that I was on international promo tour, because that's when things were really starting to kind of crumble for me. Just like emotionally, and you know, it's a mix of 2 feelings. One feeling is like I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that I didn't tell, like people would have no idea how I was feeling on the inside, you know, like people have no clue. And why didn't I just say something? Like, there's part of me that's like, why didn't I, like, that was so awful the way that I was feeling, you know, and I probably could have avoided a lot of that by just being honest and not being so freaking prideful, you know. And then at the same time, it's really fun to look back because I'm like, okay, you know, this is like you and me in the same city. You know, I'm hanging out with the same people in some of the same environments, but like I am not her, like I am not that girl, you know, and just being like, wow, thank God that seasons can change, and that, you know, sometimes you can think you're at the end of your rope, and those are the things that, you know, that turn you into the person that you are. And, you know, something that I've just really come to learn and understand, which I'm so glad about, is that, you know, some of the biggest stones and rocks that get thrown into your path, if you don't allow those things to cause bitterness or to just make you hard and cold towards the world, if you can kind of like pick those up and embrace them as a part of who you are, I think those end up being, you know, the gems in your crown. And I definitely feel like that's been the case for me. And I don't have any regrets, but it is funny. I'm like, faker, faker, you're smiling like a big fake. No, it's all good.
I heard you got the news today. Seems nothing ever goes your way. Oh no.
Touring, getting to actually go on the road with my band and everything is a completely different deal from promo touring. Completely different. It's like not half as exhausting. It's way more, you get in much more of a routine. You're with the same people every day. We have a groove that we get into, so that part doesn't freak me out at all. We will be doing, you know, some international touring. I've got some, like, you know, big tour dates coming up in Japan in December, and then we'll do maybe some in Europe, like after the beginning of the year. And I will be continuing to do some, you know, obviously promo touring in the States to get ready for the release in January. But yeah, everything we're just kind of spacing it out. And really, I mean, my goal on this record is to not just be a promo touring artist, and I've done that for so many years, and people have seen me play at malls, and people have seen me, you know, on every radio station in the whole world. But now I'm getting excited to actually be able to put on my own show, which is a side that I think a lot of people just haven't even seen yet. And I've got an unbelievable band. I mean, I've got guys who play with everybody from, you know, Rihanna to Mary J. Blige to Chaka Khan to Lauryn Hill to Gladys Knight to Alicia, obviously. And I mean, I'm so honored to get to play with them. So the touring part just amps me. I'm not freaked out about that at all. It's a new day.
But who cares what they say? 'Cause no one can judge you.